Yay, live.
Let's see if it shows up on
Fluffins is here too?
Aw. Fluffins also wants to go live. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's part of this. He knows that we're doing Weird Giraffe Game stuff, and so he's here.
Awesome.
When we're doing Galactic Raptor stuff, he's not there, because he's not part of that.
Well,
I don't know. Or maybe I'm just, seeing, what I see and putting, on certain, connotations, when it's just a cat being a cat. I don't know.
Alright, so it says that we are live and that we have been for about 40 seconds. So, hey YouTube, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I am here with Carla Kopp from Weird Giraffe Games, and also occasionally Galactic Raptor Games, and we're just here to have a chat and try out being live on YouTube together. So how are you doing today, Carla?
Hey, I'm doing great! I hope everyone is watching, or maybe somebody is, so yes, hello people that are watching, maybe. Hi.
We hope. Carla, you have a lot going on right now. Do you want to talk to us about some of Weird Giraffe Games' current upcoming projects?
So, the most upcoming one-ish, or the one that's on Kickstarter right now, is Big Easy Busking. So if you haven't heard of this, you could just go to BigEasyBusking.com to check out the Kickstarter page. But it is a game where you're a street musician and you're trying to win the most tips in New Orleans. It's an area control game for 1 to 5 players. It plays in about 45 minutes, and it has this cool take on area control where when you're singing your songs, it actually takes time, so you start singing to a crowd on one turn, and you finish the song on the next turn. So yes, that is Big Easy Busking at BigEasyBusking.com.
So, as usual, you have got, actually not one, but several solo bots for Big Easy Busking. Do you want to talk about the solo mode for that game? I mean, I could talk about it since I demoed it, but...
I mean, I could too. So, as I try to do in my games, there's robots, because robots are fun to make, well, both to make and to play against, because they can do different things, and, playing against yourself is okay, but I like to play against a robot. So, there's 3 different robots, and essentially, what they do is, they have their own deck, which is actually a deck made up of cards from all the other players that aren't currently playing. So each player has their own deck. You just shuffle them up, and that becomes the robot deck. There's 3 different robots, and they're based on 3 different player types. One of them always wants to match the mood. One of them follows you, and one of them always tries to meet the threshold on each crowd, where you get money if you meet the threshold, if you have a certain number of energy with the crowd, and you also get tips if you have the most energy on a crowd. So, which one of these solo bots was your favorite?
Oof. Why don't you refresh me on which one's the one that follows you is extremely vexing.
Yes, so, that one.
They all have different... So, one thing for those of you who are watching that's true about all of Carla's bots is that they will have different goals. So you can actually play against bots that have different play styles. And the one that made me the absolute craziest in Big Easy Busking is the one who wants to come and scoop your crowd whenever possible. And I thought that was very rude, but also very fun to play against.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like the real player. So all these are based off of me playing the multiplayer and seeing what other people do. And that's also in real life when somebody just follows you to every crowd. It's stop, just let me do what I want to do. So it's the same with the robot.
So you've actually also done multiple bots for a number of your games, including all the way back to Fire in the Library. Was that the first time you did that?
Stellar Leap was, actually.
Well, yeah, Stellar Leap, yeah, you're right, absolutely. So Stellar Leap has 3 different bots of differing difficulties that have different playstyles. Fire in the Library has 2 completely different solo modes, one that's more aggressive and one that's less.
Yeah.
And then Animal Kingdoms for Galactic Raptor has only 1 solo mode, from what I understand, but you can just adjust the difficulty.
Mm-hmm. And Big Easy Busking was the first one to combine both those ideas, the difficulty and the robots, so...
Alright, so Big Easy Busking is like a development in what you do, because it's like the next step. So instead of just adjusting the difficulty or just adjusting the playstyle, you can actually do both.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Alright, so if anybody's out there, by the way, do say something. Because we want to know.
Yay. But anyway, we could still just keep talking.
yeah,
Because, I mean, Liz is awesome, so, I mean, I just want to talk to her all the time.
I was going to interview you anyway, so... So you've had a crazy con season. How many cons have you been to in 2019 so far?
I don't know. So I've been to Rocket City Game Fest, Unpub, HSV Expo, Proto ATL, and I guess Cardboard Edison wasn't a con, but it was like a big thing that I traveled to and played lots of games. So I guess 5 con-ish things that I can remember off the top. Oh, no, and also OrcaCon. I went to Seattle, so 6.
How was OrcaCon?
Oh, I loved OrcaCon. Like, so it was in Seattle. There's a bunch of, like, wonderful people there, but it was also really small and really great because of that. And they have this really big focus on diversity and, like, acceptance and stuff like that. So I thought that one was great.
Also, we'll just stop for a moment. We have some comments. One from, hey, Solo Mode Games. So he says he just got Fire in the library and really enjoyed it. I've only played multiplayer, though. Looking forward to trying the solo. So you'll have multiple solo gamers checking out Fire in the library shortly. My copy is also ready to go. I've also only played a multiplayer so far. I need to, like, actually get my solo Fire in the library on. And then hello also to Miriam, who is watching as well. So... You liked OrcaCon. What are your upcoming summer cons that you're going to be going to? I
mean, the next one,
like the hot season now.
Oh yeah, like this is the big cons are ramping up. Origins is the next one, which is in like 2 weeks or something. So I'm like desperately trying to get like all the booth help and all the game masters like trained and ready and knowing what they're doing and all the hotels and situation and stuff like that. So that's Origins. That's in Columbus, Ohio. June 12th or something. There's also Dice Tower Con, which is over July 4th in Orlando. I also have a booth there, so I have to figure out that situation because I've never had a booth. Well, I've only been to Dice Tower Con once, where I met Liz. But I was just a person that was there. So now I get to experience having a booth there. There is Gen Con. That's August 1st, which is like 2 months away.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I'm actually really jealous of you, though, because I really wanted to go to Dice Tower Con again this year, and it's just not going to work out because of the moving and the job changing. I'm hoping that I can scrimp and save enough throughout the summer to go to PAX Unplugged.
Yes.
Because that was a really good con.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun there. Like, that was my first, like, mega booth, and that was, like, actually the first time I had help at a booth. Where, like, you helped and so did a number of other people, but, like, actually having other people in the booth with me that could, like, talk about things, like, that was fantastic. Like, versus, my first Origins, which was last year, or the first Origins with a booth, where I was like, yeah, I could be in a booth for, like, 8 hours by myself, I need no breaks, and I learned my lesson. Oh gosh, I felt like I was dead. Like, if you saw me day 1 versus day like 4 or whatever, I would just like I was done. You could tell it in my face and everything. I just wanted to kind of die because like I didn't know about the whole like you need flooring at your booth, and it's like, well, if you don't have flooring, you're just standing on concrete, and we brought no chairs. And so it was like, we had like this little step stool that me, my partner Nick, and his mother, like we all alternated sitting on it because we only had one chair. And yeah, it was bad.
So
we have chairs now.
Yes we do. Also fruit snacks, for which I'm very grateful. So speaking of flooring, did I see correctly on Facebook the other day that you actually got a booth at Gen Con because of your floor?
Yes. So, how Gen Con works, if you want to get a booth, you have to apply and do these essays and stuff. And so we originally did not get a booth for whatever reason. But people canceled and stuff happened, and one of the guys that was deciding, he had seen our booth at PAX Unplugged where we had this giraffe flooring where it's like green and teal and white and crazy and giraffes. And he remembered that and he saw our name and he was like, yes, of course, we're Giraffe Games. So, I mean, you have to stand out in some way, and if flooring is the way to stand out, like, I mean, that only costs like $200 or $300. So,
So, hey, No Enemies Here is on the feed. What's up? So, I'm actually just really delighted that your flooring is what got your booth approved. But what other... So you're a small publisher. How long have you been in business now? How many years?
2016, so this is like year 3.
Okay, so what are the most important things you've learned in the last few years that you wish you had known when you started?
Just so much. A lot of things with people. So being a publisher, you have to interface with so many people, but in different ways. Like, with reviewers, you provide them reviewer copies and help along the way, or not, as I've heard that some publishers do. For Kickstarter, things, like, I usually, like, send somebody a box, and then I send them the rules, and I make sure to be like, hey, you know when the Kickstarter date is? Hey, you know when the Kickstarter date is? Do you have any questions? Etc. I really recommend for anyone that's publishing games to really send these emails, because from what I've learned, everyone's really busy and has their own life and stuff, but if you send an email that's like, whoa, reviewers, like, they don't think that your game is the number one thing in their life. Actually, they probably have a lot of games. So if you send them an email and you're like, hey, do you have any questions? They'll probably respond with any questions that they've had that they just didn't, take the time to, send you an email for. Because, they have so much other stuff and their own lives and jobs and whatever. So, I don't know. I send, weekly emails and people are like, whoa, you're, actually on top of stuff. And I'm like, I just want you to know how to play the game the correct way, because sometimes that's hard.
Sometimes it is. Not with you, fortunately. So,
yeah.
We have a question from Solo Mode Games. How difficult is it to get attention at cons as a small publisher? Do you feel like you have to go above and beyond just to get people to come over? So I want to make one comment before I pass this over to you, which is that your secret weapon is probably your mother-in-law.
Yes.
So, Annette is amazing at getting people into the booth. So for everybody who doesn't know this, Carla has a great partner, and he has a great mother, and they're very helpful and awesome people. But Annette is amazing at getting people into the booth. She is so friendly. She gets herself right out in the aisle, greets you, says, do you want to know about this game? So I was demoing Stellar Leap, and it was like I couldn't get people away from the table to reset the game before there was another full table of people ready to come in. It was stunning, and in a good way. Exhausting, but really impressive. What do you think, Carla?
Yeah, so she really helps, so we had 2 demo tables, 2 tables of people, giving, short pitches, and, a table with me, and she tried to keep every one of those full all the time, so I literally, have a line that's waiting to talk to me, and, she separates people into the right areas to where they need to go, which is great. But I would say that you do need to kind of go above and beyond being a small publisher. I'm on Twitter a lot, so people might know me from Twitter, and that's why they come up to my booth. But if they're just a regular person that's not in the board game scene or whatever, what I do for them is I have the flooring. I've done things where I had a giant giraffe plushie at Origins last year. We've talked about doing balloons and stuff like that. My booth itself, we have crazy tablecloths, so, you go by and you're like, whoa, it's a booth that's not all black? Let's check it out. There's so many booths that are just this is, every table is black, the game is a shade of black, it has, accents of non-black, maybe, and it's well, we stand out a little because it's colorful and stuff. And we have free things, we give out stickers and buttons, and we have people that are, trying to get people to come into the booth, and just having the booth being, a open, welcoming environment, I try to go for, just by having, paths, and, some booths aren't laid out in a way that would invite you to come in. Mm-hmm. If you're, blocking it all in, people don't want to come past, if they have to, squish past a person, they don't want to come see your games. So if you have, an actual walkway so they can come see the games, they will. Just simple things like that.
So basically, it's about constructing the booth well and having a good staff, as well as having aesthetically pleasing games. All right. That makes sense. So we have a comment from Miriam. She says, while she hasn't been to a gaming con, internet connections are definitely how she met lots of people for books and for teaching. So how would you say that your internet presence has changed over the last few years as you've grown as a publisher and as somebody who's networking online? So yes, we are both on Twitter a lot. This is true.
Yes. Twitter's my favorite, so I'm on it all the time, interacting with people. And as a publisher, like, you have to make sure not to just be like, hey, look at my game, guys, I have a game, it's here, look at it, look at the game, because, like, nobody really wants to interact with that person that is doing that, so you have to be, like, a real person and interact with others, like, in a human way, like, so you have to, like, not only post a lot, but you have to, like, interact and talk to others and help them, so I do a lot of that. I'm trying to do more on Facebook. I do a number of like live things all the time. Like I'll just go live and talk about what I'm doing, which some people like that. What else have I been doing like online? Well, like, do podcasts and stuff count for that?
I think they count. I mean, most people are downloading them, so at least peripherally, yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
It's a new audience.
Content creation, I'm not doing so much of content creation, but definitely more than before I became a publisher where I did none. I've been on and off a writer and writing, like, random things for random people. Like, you can always, like, guest post places. Like, if you ask first and they're like, oh, yeah, sure, do a guest post, then I don't have to do a post this week or whatever. So I've done a number of that. But, yeah, a lot more, like, before I became a publisher, I was just, like, not doing stuff.
That's awesome. So you've learned a lot about how to run a booth. You've also, I know, gotten a lot of experience the last few years with how to manage and ship and deal with requests on Kickstarter. So what have you learned about Kickstarter campaigns that you think is particularly notable? So one of my favorite early conversations we ever had was that you said that you like to specify that there should be little tiny holes in the plastic baggies that go in your game boxes so that the bags don't fill up with air and so they're not annoying to close and they don't take up extra room in a box. So, like, what other sort of unexpected things have you discovered recently that you would like to share with us?
Well, along those same lines, you could also request that, like, the cards, so they could either be the ones that are, like, super hard to open unless you have, like, nails, and even if you do have nails, like, why are some of these cards, like, so hard to open? Or you can ask for them to have the little thing where you pull it and then the cards are open.
Is there a large price difference?
I don't know if there is a price difference.
Okay. I see. These are things that are really fascinating to me. And speaking of price differences, do you have any concerns about your business changing with, current things as they currently are with China and with tariffs and with the trade war potentially happening?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, everything's up in the air. Like, I had a certain schedule, and now the schedule is like, is it going to stay the same? Is it going to be different? Because they talk about tariffs, and for those who are watching that don't know what tariffs are, they are a cost you pay when you manufacture or make something in China and it comes over. So the tariffs might be either 10% to 25%, somewhere in that range, where you would pay an additional tax on whatever the manufacturing price is plus the freight. So it'll just make everything more expensive, basically, for anything made in China. There's ways to get around this, like you can manufacture in the EU, you can manufacture in the US, other places, maybe Vietnam, who knows. I've been thinking about doing EU manufacturing because one cool thing about EU manufacturing is that, hey, it's in the EU, and your backers are in the EU, and suddenly they have games already. I've talked to one of my friends, Janice from... Oh, she did, like, assembly.
She's Ren Games.
Yes,
yeah.
Ren Games. So she did her manufacturing in Germany, and, like, the manufacturing happened, and, like, within a week, backers had their games, at least in the EU.
Wow.
Which is way different than oh, okay, so it's in China, it's going to be on a boat for 1 or 2 months, and then it's going to go through customs, and then maybe a week or 2 or 3 or something later it's going to get on a truck, and then it will be on a truck for a certain amount of time. Like, it adds up. There's all these, like, little steps where you would think, like, oh yeah, like, that, we should know how long a boat will be on the ocean, right? But no, who knows? I don't know. Like, they don't tell me. And, like, all these steps, like, one thing that I don't think enough people understand is that humans do things, and they do them when they want to, and all these processes, like, the person driving the boat is probably a human, and the person that is in customs is a human, and they're all making these choices and decisions, and their number one priority is not my game, which is fine. It's probably their family or something, but it's not the game.
So speaking of, we have some concern for children from No Enemies here in the comment thread. So we're talking about the holes in the plastic bags. He said children don't suffocate. Yes, also meeples will not suffocate in bags with holes in them.
Yes.
So,
well,
also,
and like a cool thing is like, so I always include like a lot of bags in there because it costs like 2 cents. Okay, like I'm like, hey, just put in 10 bags, and they're like, okay, 2 cents a copy, and I'm like, great job. But like some people don't put in bags, and I'm like, why is there no bags? Like I just want to like separate things. Like
I get it. Actually, I probably have bags from your games in other game boxes because I've like diverted them to other causes. All right, so we have some more people here as well. Hey, Board Games and Bourbon, Glenn, it's good to see you. And we have a question from Solo Mode Games again. He wants to know what your favorite and least favorite parts of publishing are.
My favorite. So when I get to see people that I don't know just playing one of my games and they're like so happy and excited, like that is so cool. Like, maybe like not the best part is like when they're like screaming or something. Like so at PAX U, we put the fire in the library table right next to my meeting table, and every so often people would like be like, "Whoa!" and I'd be like, "Ah, like what is happening?" But like it was also cool to like just hear like people get so involved in my games, and it was just fantastic. Like, hey, I made that and I worked on that and I gave people happiness, and that's so cool. For the worst parts are probably some of the people aspects of it where
hey, there's a reason I'm a solo gamer, so
yes. So a lot of people that are in this industry are doing it for fun and they love it, and they're not like doing it in a professional capacity. So there's like new designers where they see their game and it's their baby and it's their tiny baby and they don't want to see it change at all or be different or anything, but like I'm also a publisher, so I have to take that baby and make it into a product. And products have to be affordable and, you know, condensed. Like, you could make a game that has 3 million cards, but that would be a terrible game. So, like, you have to make it so that, like, you only have in the box what you need, exactly what you need, and it has to be really blind play tested. And getting that to happen and getting people to kind of, like, be like, oh yeah, that's not a baby, that's a product, that is a thing, it's not like an extension of them. And like learning how to talk to people and interact with all these different people who talk in different ways and hear in different ways. For instance, like if you're working with an illustrator, you probably should say a lot more fluffy words than you would need to if you were talking with an engineer, which is like, I'm an engineer by day. So we do not say fluffy words at each other ever because that's emotions and we don't have them.
You have emotions. Come on now.
Yes, I do have emotions, but like interacting with all these different people and knowing how to talk to them and like experiencing that whole like, oh yeah, I talked to that person poorly and now they're going to hate me forever and I still have to work with them. I will try to get back on their good side, but like sometimes you can say things and be like a real ass without meaning to. So just that whole thing, like firing someone is probably the worst. Like when it gets to that point where you have to be like, I have to fire them and just Because at the end of the day, like, I'm also important, so, like, you can't, like, I can't work with people that don't respect me, like, repeatedly. Like, if every day the only thing I get is anger and pain and whatever from them, then,
Right.
yes, that's the worst.
All right, so we have some more questions. So No Enemies Here stepped out, but I'm so glad he was here. Tiffany Horizonova has a question. Where do you get your inspiration for new game ideas? I know part of the answer to this, but I want to know more. I know that you like judging Cardboard Edison a lot.
So I judge Cardboard Edison. I play games, and I kind of, like, play them and see what things I like and what I don't like in them, and it's usually games that I, like, hate. Like, I played Machikoro, and I hated it, and I was like, you know what? I could take this mechanism, and I could do it better. And that's what I did Stellar Leap with. But also, I can just, like, I think about dinosaurs a lot, so, like, I have a lot of dinosaur game ideas, and it's just, like, like, the ideas just come all the time, because I'm thinking about games all the time. Like, when I just wake up in the morning or when I'm in the shower, like, I get a ton of ideas, and I just need to write them all down, because too many ideas for the amount of time.
Do you just keep, like, a file and then go back?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been seeing you tweet occasionally about something about Venice. I'll be curious to know what that's going to be.
It's a pick up and deliver game.
Okay.
So, you are a gondolier in Venice. Like, you have a gondola, you are starting off, and you want to pick up passengers and deliver them where they need to go, and you can give them a little extra if you want. There's also a, like, Yelp review system in there, because, when I went to Venice, we went on the water taxis a lot, because it's, you just get, like, a bus pass, and then you can be on the water taxis for forever. So that's Venice for the cheap. Just stay on there. It's fun.
This actually also ties into a question that Board Games and Bourbon is asking, which is, do you seek out a type of game, or do you publish, like, any game that speaks to you? So dinosaurs or Venice. So, or do you say, like, oh, I want a certain kind of game. I want a bidding game. I want a dexterity game.
It depends on what time period you talk to me at. Some games just show up and, like, Fire in the Library, I signed it because I really liked Tony and I really liked the game, and he kept getting this feedback about how publishers would say, hey, it's a great game, but I don't have a Press Your Luck game. And I was like, I don't have a Press Your Luck game. So that's how that one happened. But I don't actually, like, look for any specific thing so far. Like, I've been looking for sizes of games. Actually, I was looking for, like, a roll and write. So, I guess I lied just there.
Did you find one?
Maybe. I found one I really like, but, I'm, like, more hesitant on signing things now based on, like, what I said earlier, and, like, working with people is hard sometimes, and they stress me out. But yes, I think this guy, he has been, like, really good to talk to, so, like, I'm just putting in more barriers to me signing things instead of, like, signing on a whim. But usually, like, what I'm really looking for with a weird draft game is some take on a mechanic that is just different. Like I really liked Big Easy Busking because it had the two-step area control. Mm-hmm. And I really liked Dreams of Tomorrow because it had a rondelle, but it had, like, the shifting rondelle. So it takes, like, a weird take on a mechanic that people might know.
Right. Oh, or, as Glenn is joking down here, that you wanted a game about book burning.
Yes.
Of course.
Weird themes, like, if you pitch to me a game and it's, like, farming, I'll be like, eh. But, like, if somebody was like, oh, yeah, it's farming in space and there's all these other things, like, if you get, like, a weird theme in there, I'll be, like, much more likely to be, like, actually play it and look at it. So, no boring stuff.
So, I'll ask you maybe one more question since I've had you for a little bit. So, we talked about how things have changed for you as a publisher, as somebody who does Kickstarters, as somebody who does cons. How would you say that your relationship with your solo bots has changed over time? That's something that we've touched on, and just since I'm a solo gaming person, that's what I want to know. Like, how are you? I mean, I've noticed that you were not really a solo gamer much yourself when we met a year ago. Is that something that's changed? You know, are you continuing to see more promise in that area of gaming? No, I'd be curious to hear your perspective.
So I've done more solo games since we talked, but I'm not like a super solo gamer. It's more to explore than to actually do it because I want to, if that makes sense. Like I want to experience all the different solo modes because I want my solo modes to be like fantastic. Like I really need to do some more like puzzle solo modes so I can like figure out how that works. But yeah, with the robots and stuff, like, it's been really exciting, but they haven't, like, changed a lot, since the first, like, Stellar Leap. Like, Stellar Leap, I learned a lot about what a solo mode should be, and it's just been streamlining that, and the whole design process for me is just a lot faster with each solo mode, just because I know so much about it. And solo modes in general are kind of easy for me. Well, because the point in time that they come in the design. So I don't do anything with the solo mode until like the game is done. And by that time, I've had a lot of time to watch other players and figure out like, oh, okay, so in Big Easy Busking, players could follow you, or they could focus on the moods, or they could focus on the threshold.
Right.
Like they can do these different things. So by that time, I'm like, oh, okay, so if I'm making a robot, here's the different player types, and here's what a player does, and let's just take out all the extra stuff. Like, I know what extra stuff doesn't need to be in there. So it's a lot more, I guess, like, just straight to, this is the fun robot, and these little tweaks need to happen through actually, like, playing and seeing how, like, the robot actually works. I think like that's actually my favorite part about solo design is I'll make this robot and I'll think that it does something, but then actually playing with the robot, I'll be like, oh, that's different, and now I have to deal with that, I guess. Like, so it's not always obvious what the repercussions of putting in this robot will be.
That is awesome. All right, Carla, thank you so much for coming on the channel. It's been really fun to talk to you, and thank you so much to everyone who came to talk with us. This is my first time live, and it's been awesome.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the questions and for watching and everything, even Glenn.
Even you, Glenn. We love you. All right, happy gaming, everybody.
Bye.